This is the Corrective Culture Podcast, and today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Donald Carr. How are you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good.
We've been wanting to get Donald on for a pretty long time, so it's awesome to have him up here. We just did a really cool back pain workshop.
Yeah, Donald's probably one of our biggest mentors, so we learned a lot of stuff through him in this workshop. Was all about back pain, really, and do you reckon you'll be able to give us a little rundown about it later?
Sure.
Yeah.
No problem.
But the sort of first questions we want to sort of introduce yourself to everyone, basically, so
Sure.
they know where we're coming from.
Well, I'm Donald Carr. I've been in the industry, in the fitness and wellbeing industry for a long time. Probably started around the 1990s. I've been based out of Sydney now for the last maybe 18, 20 years. And then from working in the industry, I got into presenting and doing all other stuff. So it just became more of a natural kind of progression to get into helping more people as I worked. And I needed to know more, so I got into a whole bunch of different kind of corrective needs and working with clients based on, what was in front of me and what toolkits I had. So I started off in Ireland, as you can probably gather from my accent. And then I kind of started traveling around the world, and as I got on, there was holes in the industry, so that was kind of interesting for me to see if I could exploit them or do something different. So that's when I started getting into some of the corrective work and more what they call now the functional training or holistic approach.
Yeah, that's cool. What I really want to know is how you came up, because being an Irish fella, they're known for their drinking, they're known for their fighting. What was it? What was it like growing up in Ireland? And you were a Dublin boxing champ at one stage. So I know there's a couple of stories that you've been holding back from us from when you were a kid. I'd love to hear about you growing up in Ireland.
Yeah, well, I came from a family of four. I was the second oldest boy. My dad played Gaelic football, and he played for Dublin, so that was a pretty big deal back then. It was, three brothers and an older sister. The brothers always had a bit of rough and tumble. We got lucky, I suppose. My dad got a property when I was about 6 years of age. It was kind of acreage, so we could go jump on trees, and we had vegetables growing out the back garden. My sister, of course, always wanted a pony, so she got a pony. So we could ride bareback on a pony around the back. We played Cowboys, Indians. We did that kind of stuff, but a lot of outdoor kind of stuff, playing lots of sports. And then there's always the competition between three brothers. So, you're always trying to play better soccer, do better stuff. I got into lots of different sports when I was younger. Always played some kind of a ball sport. And then got into boxing around the age of about 8. I did that with some of my other sports, and then just went on and on from there. Eventually got into kind of rugby and stuff later on. But yeah, growing up in Ireland was great. I lived locally in Dublin to a castle, and it had grounds, woods, and so on. So we used to go and play there when we were 10, 12 years of age, and we'd be running around trees and doing stuff. And this were battles, and not quite your Game of Thrones stuff, but in our imaginations as 10 and 12-year-olds, kind of like that. So you run around an old castle kind of grounds and stuff. So that was mine. And then later on, when you get into teenage years, then you get alcohol, and it all changes. So the Irish, we like a drink now and then, and I was no different. And it was the social scene, and everybody goes and socializes in the pub. And I suppose that was a big part of our life, and to a lot of us it still is. So it's the social gathering around, any excuse, have a drink kind of thing.
Yeah, it's crazy to see now. I was saying to you last night, like you don't drink. I've seen you one time. You came and had a beer with me, one beer, and I've known you 10 years nearly.
Yeah. I made that decision when I was about 40, just to cut back on social drinking, and I still, like, my brother got married, and I still went out and had a big night that night, but that's one night in 7 years or something like that, So that kind of stuff is, it just doesn't serve me anymore. I did a lot of that when I was playing rugby and over here backpacking, and I thought the amazing thing out here was the 24-hour bars. I mean, how good of an idea is that,
Yeah.
For me back then. But that's something that I felt later on the effects of, and once you get kind of serious into any type of training, you can feel that in your body. And it was just a different switch to switch from that to a different way of life. So it just felt that it was an easy progression. But I've always had some fun times when I go back home up to Ireland, and my old mates and even family are like, "What, you don't drink anymore?" That's and I might have a glass of wine now and then, but it's not like I would go out for. As you said, I don't usually take a drink.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so the reason why sort of Corrective Culture is here is because we know Donald because Jake hurt his back 10 years ago now.
Yeah, I was 19.
Yeah, 19. And
11 years.
Can you just give people a little rundown?
Yeah,
on
that's
that?
so good to touch on, because I don't even know if Donald knows this, but how I found Donald was a long road of mishaps. So I saw physios, osteos, and all sorts of stuff. And I was in Hawaii at the time. I hurt my back, and it took me about 2 years to find you. But I always, Mike Stewart, which is the best bodyboarder, body surfer in the world, he like pioneered bodyboarding. And he told me, he's like, man, this guy Paul Check, I went and did DMT with him, and he fixed me. Like, and I remember him looking really skinny at the time. Like he was kind of like bigger, and then he met Paul, and then he toned up and he looked way healthier. And I was like, fuck, what's going on there? So I was in Hawaii, and I was telling him about my back, and he was looking at my back, and he looked at my pelvis, and I was like, that's weird. Why is he looking at my pelvis? And he just held my pelvis, and he was like kind of looking. He's like, he goes, man, it looks. Yeah, there's something going on in you. Like, you look like you're in hyperextension or something. He's like, your best bet would to be find a high level Czech practitioner in Australia. And I found it really hard to find someone. So he asked Paul, I'm pretty sure, or I was speaking to him on FaceTime, and he's like, I can get Lisa to talk to Paul, but I think there's a guy in Sydney, Donald Carr. And that's how I found you. And I didn't find you because of your name. I found you because of Place at Chi at the time. And then I came in, worked with him for two and a half weeks. It took me to get out of pain. After being in pain for 2 years, being in hyperextension, I had a spondylolisthesis, L5S1. And the best thing, the first phone call I had with Donald was, I said, I have a spondylolisthesis. And it was the first person out of all the practitioners that I saw that go, oh, yep, yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, we can have a look at that. It's the first person, man, out of a lot of people. So a low back specialist here. Apparently the best in Australia, blah, blah, blah. He was like, got to fuse it. There's nothing you can do. You're 21 here and that, and your career's starting pretty much. You're like, fuck. So 2.5 weeks with Donald, and you got me out of pain. And I think, I'd love to hear what when I came to you, your side of it. If you can remember, it was a while ago.
Do you get many spondies? Like, I know we got that girl at the moment, but is it pretty rare?
No. There's quite a lot of clients that come in. Like Jake, I mean, when I saw Jake, it was just another guy walking through the door that's broken his body, and I didn't know him from anybody, so you just assess the situation that you have in front of you, and you say, yeah, I've seen that before, I can do that, or whatever. And yeah, he was in a bad way. He was kind of crippled and twisted. You'd emaciated a lot of muscle, or there was not much there.
Massive weight shift. I remember having like a 10, 15 kilo weight shift.
Yeah, there was a huge rotation and pelvic hike and some other things that were going on. So yeah, I mean, it's always on the side of things you look at, wow, this guy has a long journey to go ahead. Does he have the ability to follow through or to do the work to help himself, or can he realize what he's facing, the challenge? And sometimes that's where we as the coaches step in and say, okay, well, yeah, like we've done this before, this is what's worked in the past. You're not that client, but maybe we can learn some of the lessons along the way. This is what they found that worked. This is the system that we use. Are you ready to do it? Are you up for the challenge? Do you want to put the work in? And you put the work in. If you didn't do those stretches and mobilizations every day for that 2 weeks, it wouldn't have happened in 2 weeks. It would have been 2 months if you did it once a week or twice a week. You know, it snowballs as you do the work. So
massively.
And there's other things that you needed to do too. You needed to change your lifestyle, which you slowly did. And as you started to do that, that's what then when it really gets traction, that's when things start to really stick. And that's how you're still doing things like what you want to do now and anything that you want to do with relatively no back pain.
Yeah, well, I really owe that to you, because 31 now and no pain, no back pain whatsoever. What came to mind when you were just talking then is when you say changing my lifestyle, like it was a big lifestyle change for me, and it was a lot of like what's cool, because exercising and health and stuff wasn't cool in my sport, bodyboarding at the time. And so it wasn't just like, and I was looking at guys like Paul Check and Mike Stewart that would get up in the morning and stretch at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. for half an hour and then get about their day. So I started doing that, and people were like, what's he doing? You know, like this is different for him. And it was a big transition into, it was almost like a rite of passage. It was like giving me my power to go and do that. And it was without that, man, I wouldn't be as happy as I am now.
Cool.
So it was a massive, you don't know how much you actually changed my life, but you did. Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure. That's what we do this work for. I mean,
Exactly.
that's why we find that's, you know, I talk about clients and talk to other practitioners and other people who are in it, and, you know, yeah, we want to get paid, but there's a job satisfaction, and it's kind of hard to get in other professions, and there's lots of other carers and they feel that they know exactly what we're talking about, so it's a privilege sometimes to help, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah, it's amazing how it does. Like you said, it snowballs, but same with the people you help. So like you help Jake, and then that snowballs into his immediate friend group, then my immediate friend group, and then our kids and those kids, and like that's how you change the world, how we speak about, and that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
We always say it's like it was all a dream. Like we're at this back pain workshop yesterday. And,
Yeah.
you know, corrective culture's been going for like a year now, and it's doing really well. And we've got a lot of clients and stuff. And this all started because I went and come and saw you. But we're like looking at, there was one stage where everyone's doing the hip spine integrator on the floor, and you're showing them, and there's like 30 people spread out on the floor. And I just looked at Khan, and I was like, it was all a dream. Because it was.
Yeah, it's just like it's
like,
happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So quickly. From when like I did exercise coach. So Donald teaches the Czech courses in Australia too, a lot of them. And so he was our teacher. And when I did exercise coach, that empowered me. That's the first level of the Czech sort of movements style of coaching. And when I did that, it just empowers you so much. It's like, oh wow, like this is all gold that no one else really knows, and you feel like you just got this like key to like helping people a lot quicker than the average, and their money will be better spent. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And
Imagine doing it back when you started, Donald, when, you know, it would have just been like, holy shit, this is...
Yeah, there was only one other guy I could ask in Ireland at the whole time that had done any Czech course. And luckily enough, he came from a gym that I used to work in, so I went over and asked him about it. And then, because it was really hard back then to find the information, so it was back in 1997, 98 kind of thing. There was some information out there, but nobody was really kind of sharing what was the course about. It was so kind of revered or kind of secret or special, kind of on the fringe. And yeah, it was like when you got a hold of it, it was when you came back, you start looking at around what other trainers were doing, and it certainly gave you that edge. And it was a different lens to look at things, and it was systems to try to understand all the stuff you'd learn in your courses, in your uni, and whatever. It was like how you use all that information. It wasn't just how to do it.
Yeah.
How do you put that in a structure that will help? And that's been used by many others for years and years. And that was that system, the Czech system. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it more of an art than a template. Yeah, like you see how everyone sort of does it in their own little way, but there's still a system. Well, you want to see a system being used, you know?
Yeah, we say it's the how to rather than the what to.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
how you do it.
And one cool thing, like Donald's been up here for a couple of days, and we've been really asking him a lot of questions and stuff. Hope you haven't been getting sick of us yet. But we're at breakfast this morning, and a couple of things really click. Like, I was asking him about what we'd do for someone with an L4, L5 lateral disc bulge, and he's like, it's, you know, that's such a multivariate equation. Like every person is so individual, and that really clicked with me this morning. Where I was like, fuck, like there is no right answer. It's like there is so much that you need to take on board, and that's just like, you know, that's just the body, that's the musculoskeletal, but then you've got the mental, emotional, and the dietary, and it's like it just warped my mind, because I'm like, you were relating it to jiu-jitsu, and you were too, and then we're like, fuck, but jiu-jitsu is just the body moving.
Yeah.
But then we got the body, the body's the most crazy thing in the world. So
It's like we were mentioning, like how important vitamin D is. Like I was thinking, I wonder how important it is that if I'm giving this person all these exercises and stretches and all of that, but they're not getting any sunlight, what are the chances of them getting better are? You know what I mean? I was wondering. Yeah, reduce severely.
Yeah. Like if you reduce any of those 6 foundation principles, or your food, your water, your sleep, your breath, your thoughts, your movement, if any one of those is compromised, well, you just, you might get there, but you're certainly stacking the odds against you, and you're not betting on yourself. So you should do the best you can with what you have and stack the odds in your favor.
For sure.
The yesterday you said in the course too, which I thought was awesome. You're breathing 26,000 breaths a day. If
20
you're
25,
25,900 or something.
Yeah.
So if you're 10% restricted and you're doing that 26,000 times a day, do you think that's going to pay it? That was a big thing for me yesterday. I got out of the course.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. Wow. Yeah, like on the totem pole breaths,
Yeah, well,
top.
that's the psychological and psyche as well.
Yes.
So we have to look at that as well, and that's the other side of things that we also then neglect in the industry from all across different walks of the fitness, well-being, health industry, which is very interesting when you say from my side of things when people come through.
Yeah, like in the postural plumb line, I was thinking one of the guys had a big cranial, like the head was up, basically their chin was pointing up, and I was wondering, I wonder if that's like that, or if everyone's staring at him and he's like just putting his chin up to look bigger, and you just like you don't know, but you can sort of make assumptions,
100%. Well, I was doing that at that last jits comp. I was like, I was terrified inside, but I thought if I could just keep my head up and keep show my neck, it would look like I'm not scared. But I was shitting myself.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't hide it. And we were talking about that, like when Jake was at the Jits comp, I was in the audience, and I was looking at every single guy, and there was probably a couple that I could see that they're actually pretty comfortable, and the rest were all just having this mask of like, yeah, I do this all the time, like moving far too much, and like you just see everyone was nervous, and then the guys that weren't were like the two guys that compete like all the time. They just do it like every competition they're at, and it's just like nothing to them. So it's like anything, hey, experience.
Yeah, experience overcomes fear.
Yeah.
And would you say that with the Czech stuff, for people getting into it, experience overcomes fear? Because it is pretty scary. It's again like it's like you're a white belt when you start out. It's like,
Are you talking about the students' experience going through the program?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's like anything. When I first started going to conferences outside Ireland, I'd done as much as I could inside Ireland and in universities there or courses there, but then you get to a university in England and there's a higher level quality, and then you see someone else, or you go to America or you go somewhere else. So yeah, you get like, oh my God, I know nothing. This is crazy. What am I even doing in this industry? So I got that with Paul Chek when I saw him first, and many other presenters, Gary Gray, and it's like, holy hell, how am I supposed to get to that level? But it's just practice. It's just knowing the basics, having a system that that works, and it's not has to be a cookie cutter kind of everything's protocol that for every knee joint you do this, or for every back spinal injury you do this. No, you look at and you assess each individual case, and you reflect on what the client's body is telling you and their experiences and their health history and what tools they have available to them and what resources they have available to them, and then you just follow a system that works. And I've done multiple courses and multiple other things around the world until I found a system that works for me. And the students, when they first come in, they get overwhelmed because it is a complicated stuff. It's not for people that are just looking to get into the industry. It's people that have the passion to fix and to help identify issues and then give some guidance and coaching on what the clients can do, because we don't really fix anybody. All we do is guide people to the options that they make the right choices, and we can support them to make the right choices. We can guide them, but they're really on their own journey, and sometimes they like to sacrifice or sabotage themselves or bump themselves a little bit and get back into back pain or do silly things along the way, and then when the pain's bad enough, they come back to us and we go through the discussion again, and you say, okay, that was we lost that match, now we're in the next game, what are we doing this time? Do we learn from that experience, or do we want to lose again? So remember, they got the ball bias by doing this, so you have to coach people through their situation, and depending on some people's capacity to take things on, as the students start to enter down that journey, we give them very complex systems to try and understand a very multidisciplinary kind of approach, and that's because the body's so system orientated, and it's overwhelming for some people. So some clients or some students come in and they find out, well, this is too much for me, this is way beyond my capacity. So
I think with the Czech stuff for me, it has been overwhelming at times because there's so much work. It's like you can't come in and expect to do one course or two courses without following the resources and looking outside. And that's when you really realize how much work yourself and Paul have done and it is overwhelming, because it's such a broad thing. And when you're coming in and you're just like...
and the cool thing is, like, if you pull it off and you're doing it as a job, like a Czech practitioner, Czech professional, then you like got your stripes, because to do it, you got to live it. Like, you can't show any of the movements unless you can do them yourself from the start for most of them, you know what I mean? And that's, it just shows commitment, because a lot of the time, if you go to a typical therapist, the movement's going to be pretty easy, but then they don't always represent who you want to, the sort of person you want to be fixed. Basically, you need them to be living it so you know it works. It's like proof is in the pudding. Definitely.
Well, when I first saw Donald, he was able to do everything that I could do, but way better. And you were lifting massive at the time too. I remember you were lifting. I just remember doing a lift session with you, and you were doing like 4 plates each side or something like that. It was big, and I was just like, "Fuck! Like this is sick. This is what I want to do." I remember saying to you at one stage, I'm like, how do people not train like after like 6 months of doing it? Now I understand, because you go in and out of journeys in life. But at the time I was just like, fuck, I just was addicted to it, hey?
Yeah, because it's new movements, man. So that's part of it. Like, you're learning new movements, so it keeps it exciting, like anything. Like, it's like doing the same warm-up at a gym every single day. You're gonna get over going to the gym unless you're like challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Was there ever like 1 or 2 clients that sort of where you felt like you evolved a bit, or was a big learning experience for you, where you feel like you stepped up as a practitioner? Or
yeah, certainly. Clients were the ones that were kind of pushing me forward to get into probably more complex courses, because either I felt that, I'm just not comfortable taking on this client, or geez, what they've done, I don't understand what's going on here. I need to help them. What do I need to know? And you go off and try and find courses, or do research, or talk to healthcare professionals, or go talk to physios and doctors, or some of my clients were those too. So kind of looking back, it's like coincidence, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. But I was training a neurosurgeon in Ireland, and the gym I was working in was close to one of the big hospitals in Dublin, Beaumont Hospital. And I had a few other doctors and radiologists and nurses that had hurt their backs from lifting people and all this kind of stuff. And then my mum got cerebral malaria in South Africa, and that was really challenging for me, because it's your mum as your client. So sorry.
Yeah.
So what happened was, as she came out of the malaria, and she was in intensive care for a long period of time and on life support and so on. So there was a neural deficit in the way the muscles were firing, and I needed to find a way to reignite the nervous system and clean out the nervous system from the malaria, and just get her to be able to walk again. She'd been, what would you say, unmobile for whatever 2 or 3 months, and then there was the rehab and stuff. So we got working through it. So that was a really challenging client, and I went off to America, and I'd learned a little bit of stuff from some different guys over there at different conferences, and that helped me to kind of do muscle activation techniques and muscle energy techniques and reflexology and different ways to excite meridian lines and pumping muscles, looking at the endocrine system and the lymphatic system. And when she was getting rehab at the hospital at the time, nobody was really doing that stuff, and we're going back 20 plus years. So I was doing that stuff with some of the Czech stuff, and I'd use some of Gary Grace. I was just like, whatever works, let's just throw everything in there. I mean, I was going to work in the morning, I'd drive by the hospital, do a session on my mum, go to work, then on the way back home, drop back in again, do another physical session. The nurses would always be standing there watching me, looking at what I was doing visceral massage or pumping systems, nerve flossing stuff, muscle activation techniques. And I got her home the first time she got out of hospital, and she got in her wheelchair, and I worked her at home for two days, I think I had. And she came back to the physio on the Monday morning, and she stood up to get into the wheelchair, and the physio's like, what the hell? And so they gave me the Zimmer frame and said, "What did you do at home?" He said, "Oh, my son was working on me all weekend." So it was kind of all or nothing. You know,
Cool.
you throw it in. So that, you've heard me say it probably before, and you might have heard me say it. Do you trust any other trainers enough so that you let them work on your ball?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's what I wanted to do as the standard going forward.
Yeah, that's a really
awesome.
that's a really good standard actually. Hey, it's a good analogy I can keep pulling myself up on. It's like making sure I was like, "Alright, this is my friend's mum. Like, what am I going to be doing?" And was and also like we talk a fair bit about the state of the industry at the moment,
Yeah.
more so in Australia and other people around the world listening, and how it differs from country to country, and how the physios in Australia are different from the physios in America and things like that. But it's sort of, for me, since I've been doing it, full time for over a year now, it's sort of blown my mind a little bit. I didn't know, I didn't know how much how low the standard was for people getting fixed and what they're getting. I'm looking at the programs they're getting and how I don't.
I think your expectations have been risen by your experiences so far, that you're expecting everybody to have that understanding of a system that's been around 35 years. So you've been dropped into the deep end of some knowledge pits or knowledge of wisdom, and they haven't filtered through. I mean, Paul used to work, and a lot of the other faculty members have worked in universities, hospitals, and so on, and they generally end up, running different programs or gaining that wisdom and filtering it out through the systems. And even like here in Australia, the Victoria universities, the Queensland universities have some of Paul's materials in their libraries, and a lot of physios and chiros come through the courses that I've taught as well, and they know of Paul's work or have done the scientific core training, scientific back training, program design in college, or their professors or tutors have talked about this guy Paul, and he does this, and this is the other model out there. So it's really great to see that there's a lot of knowledge filtering through, but that's not to say every college and every physio or chiro or osteo knows that system. It's only one system out there, so there's a different approach, and as you just highlighted, across the world, physios are different from different colleges in different countries. I mean, I've worked in 4 different continents now, and they're different. The healthcare professional in the UK is different to a healthcare professional here, and there's very similarities in what you're getting in their knowledge base as regards to what they get as their qualification, but we don't know how they're applying that information, and that's where the wisdom of their tutors and their lecturers come in as well, because anyway, you can just read a book and that's just the information, but it's how you use that information with the wisdom of years of experience of putting stuff on the table or using it in practice. It's challenging sometimes, but we all know there's good and bad in every profession.
Yeah, I remember, I think you said it in the first class, if you want to get good, just I think I asked you actually, how did you learn it all? Where do you start? This person's work, this book, and then you were like, just the people that are the best in the world, just go hang out with them, and that's where you'll learn. And I was like, that just makes so much sense. It's like if someone's getting results, I'm like, all right, I want to know what they're doing. Let's go see what they're doing. Compared to, this is what you should do, but there's no proof in the pudding, sort of thing.
Yeah, and see how they live too. Staying with Donald or Kathy, you see the way they put butter on all their food, or they have salt in their water, and that's inspiring. Every time I come down and stay with you guys, I'm refreshed of that's how to live, because you truly live in it 100%.
Yeah,
It's the best way to coach, because you come always from a sense of authenticity. What can you say? Authenticity.
Authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, just come home with me. I'll show you. Let's go for lunch. So you don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything differently. This is what we do. This is what we have been doing. This is what's worked. Here's a couple other clients. Talk to them. This is how they've navigated that, or the challenges, because it's challenging to start changing lifestyle habits when you don't know the reason why or the rationale why, or have the motive to do so. It can be fun.
Yeah, biggest life hack is you get herbs and you add it to your butter, and then you got all different sauces at all times. You just put on your veggies and your meat, which is especially important when you're trying to eat healthy. You can get bland sometimes if you don't know how to cook. Biggest thing, you got to learn how to cook if you want to go healthy. Otherwise, there's no chance.
Yeah, I think flavors are the biggest thing you miss. Like,
In life too.
yeah, and that's another thing staying at Donald and Cassie's is that the food is flavoursome, and that was what blew my mind, and that's why I've tried to. Me and you are starting to get better at it, but it's taken a long time. Like I went to cooking classes when I was younger, and it just didn't work for me. Like it's too tech, and then I've got to get all the food for this one meal. Whereas like you got to learn how to like kind of wing it, hey, and just create stuff, but you got to have a lot of herbs and spices and different things to make it tasty. Otherwise, you're just
lots of herbs and spices, lots of organic herbs and spices, and then you're good. You know, you're good. Get good at making your own mayo and that. You know, little sauces, and then like if I make a mayo, I just add smoked paprika to it, and it's like the most amazing thing ever. And you can't not like it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're a good cook. You've cooked. So we've been cooking for Donna while he's been up here, man, and I hope it's
good.
Yeah, I hope it's not too bad. There's been a couple of meals where I'm like, come on.
Like MasterChef, garnish that.
Yeah. And because they do desserts down there, and like I know Paul as well. Like they do desserts like every night. There's a new dessert, and it's unreal. But that's how you live. That's the best thing, you know. Food in life. Yeah, it's so good.
You don't have to eat boring just because you eat clean and healthy. You can make it exciting. You can make it different ways, and that came from my mum, my sister. My sister was a chef. She had her own restaurant for a while, so I was around foodies. But even then, in the kitchen, I wasn't allowed in the kitchen with them there. So, but my mum would make us learn how to make our own food if we came home. And like your typical teenager, oh, what's for dinner? And you go, oh shit, I wanted a steak or whatever. So then she said, well, it's in the fridge. Here's how you cook it, and then just tell us the instructions. So that's how I learned to cook, by basically what I wanted to cook. So if I wanted to cook something, my mum would teach me how to cook it. That was it. So
I remember you cooked duck fat. You cooked potatoes in duck fat with duck breast.
I got some duck breast in the fridge right now.
Game changer.
I want to do that.
So good.
Yeah.
This was like 10 years, like a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I just remember going, whoa, like the fats in that, because I'm like 70% protein.
Yeah,
I need that. I love it. I just crave it. And fats.
And that every meal was just like exactly. It was just you rotated the proteins. Every night you had a different. If we had an animal, different animal. So we never got the same. You don't get bored too, And there's naturally, for a reason, you don't feel like the same animal again 2 days in a row, because it's like you've got all the nutrients. Now we can move on to something else.
Yeah.
And then it was just a nice ratio of fats, proteins, carbs. It was just everything on it. You weren't deficient in anything. And yeah, Kathy's just a beast at cooking. It's good to have. It's an attractive trait in a woman.
But yeah, Donald is too. So I love how you guys have like those like fights in the kitchen where you.
Well, that's not so much. Yeah, I mean, I like to do it my way, and Kathy's learned her way.
Yeah.
And Kathy's been a more organic learner, and she's been doing really well with all the raw treats. So she's nailed them now.
That's epic.
I suppose the last 10 years she's been practicing them. But yeah, you just, as you get better at cooking for yourself and cooking for families and the challenges, and we've got 2 boys as well. So Kathy was, how do we keep clean, good food, lunch boxes, and as the kids are going through that, and the challenges with, birthday parties and, the bags, and how do you do that? So our boys have been pretty much organic all their life, and we've kind of gone through all those ordeals and challenges and hurdles and come out the other side. So it's been really good.
Yeah. Your boys. Sorry, you go.
Sorry. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I've always wondered what a full organic child would be like. And then he just got a offer to a college in the States for basketball. How old is he? 18? Just turned 18?
Just turned 18.
Yeah, so that's an organic life. That's what an organic life gets you. To the States playing basketball. But I reckon it was really cool ages ago how you said, because the whole IMS Integrated Movement Science Level 2 course is about a lot of it's about infant development.
Yeah.
And how you were fresh into that knowledge right when you had Josh, and how you pretty well programmed him.
Well, now what I did was I applied Richard Schmidt Motor Learning and Performance, a way to stimulate the different parts of the right and left hemisphere and stimulate the nervous system, as the nerves are sealing or myelinating towards the end of the sheet. You can still stimulate sensory responses. So you have tactile responses and different types of motor cortex kind of patterns and movements that you can do. So I would constantly do these cross patterns with his hands and his feet, stimulating left and right foot, left and right hand, opposite patterns. And it's a way of kind of enhancing the nervous system. So I was saying, let's put down the provision for all possible kind of whatever he wants to do is a dream of his body. So, and I was learning about it. So I was, let's do this. And it worked out well.
And he throws ball with two hands. Is that right?
He's pretty ambidextrous,
Yeah.
pretty balanced, pretty good mover.
But when he was a kid, your mate was throwing a ball with him.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
And he threw a ball back. He caught the ball, threw it back. And he threw it back to him, and he caught the ball and threw it back with his other hand. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. That's why you get the sport.
Yeah, that's sick.
It's a huge.
Yeah, they went to Steiner schools today.
Yeah, the boys went to Steiner schools and the junior school. They really enjoyed that. That was a good experience.
That's cool that they really teach you those schools, and you can see it actually in your kids. Like Ryan, you know, he's very out there and very like he wants to become an actor, and he's just, you know, you can see that they haven't been shut down. Their creative side hasn't been shut down, and they've been supported in.
He's an actor.
Yeah.
So he's coming through now, but yeah, that's it. I mean, it really does allow you to see what way they want to follow their own dream, and it allows them to express themselves. But my boys also went to traditional senior high schools, and that grounding in the Steiner school really helped them to do that, and then they went into the areas that they felt were good for them. So both of them, you know, have an idea of what they want to do and are following a passion and dream now. So that's really good.
It's crazy. That was like 3 years ago. I remember Kathy put something on Facebook saying, "It's so cool. Our sons have dreams." And I remember that post because I was like, "Fuck, that is cool to have a direction at 14." I didn't really I knew what I wanted, but I didn't have a clear, probably till now, have a really clear dream.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Yeah, it's so rare. Like at that age, knowing what you want to do, knowing you want to play basketball, knowing you want to act. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do until, you know, really probably 3 years ago. And when I knew it, and we talk about the archetypes and how I was playing the prostitute archetype in the mines. Hating what I was doing, but it was in the path of my dream and my goal. So it was easy. Those 3 years were easy in the mines. Well, not the whole 3 years in the mines, but you know what I mean. 6 months in the mines and the rest just work and scaffolding. But because I knew I wanted to do check and I could pay for study, it made it so much easier, and it's such a golden model that we're taught that I feel like it's a really big life hack. The concept of archetypes.
Yeah. What's your dream now, Donald?
I'm looking forward to my retreat, and I'll say it again. Looking forward to having my retreat open, and we're working on our own facility on the property that we own. That's what we want to achieve now.
Yeah, cool. So about 2 years ago, Donald was up here, and we were looking at a place in Monday, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you showed us all these plans to have all these big bubble tents, but maybe it was a big, huge, holistic kind of health hub, and it looks fucking awesome, man. I think it'd be a game changer, especially up here.
I think there's a market for it. It's already a model that's been used around the world in many different places where people are getting more into a center that has multidisciplinaries in one center, also to give the option of people that are coming in from interstate or want to do an immersion weekend workshop or an on-site ceremony or whatever you want to do in a space that can be used for chi work or energy work or yoga or therapy or teaching or learning or just staying and relaxing and recovering, having proper recovery centers, getting back in nature in recovery centers, not some metal steel building, but being able to recover and ground yourself at the same time, having the ability to source good organic vegetables straight from the garden, bring that straight to the plate and into the kitchen, and to make sure nowadays that we have Wi-Fi buffers, and so many people are having these seasonal problems and environmental problems around, so much Wi-Fi and so much electromagnetic energy. They never get back in nature enough, so we want to try and immerse them in a nature environment, so there'll be areas in that property that wouldn't be accessible for Wi-Fi and wouldn't be able to use a signal or pick up a signal. So basically creating Faraday fields in geometric forms around the property to shield and to also support healing. So that's kind of like
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of technologies that are out there that you know I'm not using at the present time, but many other retreats and healing centers and performance centers are using, and that's one of my passions, performance centers as well, and working and getting the best out of the human body and how it moves, and that's led me down to work with multiple athletes, but also to help people from debilitating injuries. So it's like you know, a Formula One mechanic could also fix probably your car outside. You know what I mean? Like you can, if you can work at the high end, you have to know the other stuff too. And I enjoy both. I don't kind of favor either. And I love to see that ability to be able to train, you know, your grandmother, and then, you know, you have your Olympic athlete, and then you have someone different that's just suffering from a back issue or a knee issue. So that creates the fun for me. It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's always a
it's
new
fresh.
challenge. Yeah.
It's like your art.
Yeah, my art. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always just an expression of what's going on at the time. So yeah.
That's really cool. Fuck, I hope.
Imagine
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that'd be amazing. It doesn't really to the level of getting the movement and the organic food, just everything. You know, it doesn't. It's not really out there that I know of anyway. But something that has everything that you can
Yeah.
go to.
That feeling, man, of being like, I can connect with that feeling where you're out there and you're training, getting a session with you, and then you're like having an ice bath, and then you're in nature and the wind's there and you can hear all the things. Like that's life. That's really living.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
That's a good self-investment. Like, and you know, people don't spend fucking anything on themselves. And like, I went and saw you. Donald charges like $275 an hour, and I was in no pain really. But I went and saw him and just made sure I was never going to get any pain. And he found weaknesses, and it was more so those weaknesses made me better for my sport. Like a lot stronger. I didn't realize how weak my right leg was compared to my left leg. So we just did a whole lot of single leg stuff, and it just improved dramatically. And then that leg doesn't hold as much tone, and then it's just, I feel good. And really, I could use it with my own clients.
Yeah. So Donald's in Sydney, in Mona Vale. Is it Mona Vale?
Yeah, I live in Mona Vale, work at Brookvale.
Yeah.
In Sydney.
Yeah. So if you wanna go see him, we highly recommend it. I can vouch for him 100%, as I have on the podcast before. But it's the bee's knees, and
it's worth it. Yeah, and a few people always hit us up that's in New South Wales asking, do you know anyone? And we send them your way. So that's where you go. Learn from the best. Learn where we learn.
Yeah, fucking hell. Yeah, sweet. Well, we might wrap this one up for the day. We want to get one more with Donald while he's here. So let's do it. Let's keep the ball rolling. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you guys, and then just as a note for me, it's great to watch you guys blossom and turn into the guys that you are, and expressing and living and walking and talking the talk. So keep it up.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you. It means a lot. All right, guys. Cheers.